Everybody's got a bite to eat. We'll,
You don't ride, you don't walk.
we'll get started. Want to welcome everybody to the, whatever we're calling this, a pre-town meeting. Glad you're out on a cold morning like this, and we'll start by letting everybody introduce themselves up here in the front. Cheryl might not speak up, but Cheryl Bailey, our auditors in the back, she's had a lot to do with this, so. You want it, Wendy?
Wendy Turnbull, Freedom and Unity, and helping facilitate Zoom participation.
Janine Young, I'm the town moderator.
I'm Susan Houston, a select board member since 2006.
Jim Jones, select board member.
Bruce Ury, select board member,
Michelle Warren, town clerk. Treasurer.
and Cheryl in the back. Just for logistics, we ask that if you'd like to speak, you come up and stand on that green X on the floor so that our L can pick you up and talk to the people that are online. Wendy will handle those, so.
I thought you were gonna say you needed to stand on the table.
On the table, yeah, so. It's a little tip.
That would make an interesting picture.
And to be thanked.
Yeah, thank the rest of you.
Yes, could we have anybody that's on the Freedom and Unity Committee, please stand up? Be recognized for. Like to thank you for all of your work that you put into putting this meeting together. And we appreciate all of that.
And the food.
And
And the food, yeah.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
And helping set up.
Yes.
So, thank you.
And we look forward to, hopefully this is information that will be helpful for the, town meeting on March 5th. To be held at the town clerk, I mean, at the, town gymnasium, so. Just do we need to go through the election of officers? That will just be done at town meeting. So we would start with Article 4, shall the voters authorize total fund expenditures for operating expenses of $960,863, of which $648,292.17 shall be raised by taxes. $312,570.83 by non-tax revenues. Is there any questions, comments? This is a number that we've worked on.
The Zoom people, if they can have access, they said they don't have it.
I put it in the chat. For the
Zoom is in the chat.
So the warning in the chat,
It's also on the website, on the calendar.
so you can see what we're referencing.
Did everybody hear that on Zoom?
Bruce, we pointed the difference in how the warning.
Whatever. You're being moderator, aren't you? We're gonna rely on you a lot, Janine.
Oh, right. If you could look at the top of the warning and see when the meeting is warned, it's being warned a little differently this year. This is the year for the school to start first, which is gonna be at 9 o'clock. But if you read further, it says that the town meeting is immediately following the school meeting. So we will not have this big gap of time if the school meeting gets done early and we've warned the town meeting for later. We're gonna flow, we might take a little break, but we'll flow from one meeting to the other so we don't lose people. They'll be there for one meeting and hopefully they'll just be able to stay for the whole school and town meeting and not lose people. So if you're there at 9 o'clock, you'll be there for everything.
Hi,
Carol.
we passed the quick thing about the officers, but since this is an information meeting, could
Yeah.
you just really quickly talk about if you know somebody else who hasn't been an officer and you'd like to submit them, what's that process? When does it happen?
Okay.
Thanks.
Basically, this year, if you want to run for office, you would just show up at town meeting and you would arrange for somebody to nominate you. There's no petition required this year, no consent form. Later on, could be a change next year, but this year it's strictly a town meeting, floor vote. If you want to be nominated just find somebody that would nominate you for the positions.
You can actually nominate yourself.
Yes, you could.
Do you want to go through them one by one, Cheryl, just to, Carol, just to know what each one consists of? For the officer, yeah, or did you just want to know the general for that?
You don't want to know what each officer does. That would be good to have that information. That sounds like the wrong thing when we do that. That's what we're here for. So, Bruce, do you want to tell them what a select board member does?
What don't we do? The select board is the group that governs the town. We appoint committees, we deal with budgets, we help prepare what you're looking at today, the warning that's put out. Everything from animal control to purchasing equipment to roads and bridges. When we have a flood, we have to deal with FEMA, try to get reimbursement for that. We do a fair amount of grant writing for different road related things. We don't do all of the grant writing because some of the committees write their own grants, but we deal with things like the hazards. There's a 5-year hazardous mitigation plan. We have a committee that works diligently on that, so we approve that.
Anything that the townspeople bring as a concern or issue, we try to deal with it to our ability.
So I guess that would be,
All the committees report to what.
yeah, committees report to us. Question on, okay, John? I think that's John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can we encourage folks to not just show up at town meeting to have their name put on for election, but actually write a statement? And because I feel like people show up at town meeting and we don't all know everybody in town anymore. And sometimes I feel like I'm voting for someone I'm not really clear about.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I would really encourage that.
It didn't used to be that you could do that. Now you can have a brief statement about the person who's been nominated. But years ago, you couldn't, that would be called campaigning on the floor. But now they at least let you tell you a little bit about the candidate.
And if people really are interested in running for one of these positions, which we hope they are, you know, do your work ahead of time, spread the word, get your name out there, tell people who you are and why your skill set would work for, or why your interest would work for this particular position. So, you know, if you really would like to do this, if we encourage people to step up, yeah, just do campaigning outside of town meeting.
Can we formalize it in the future?
I think we could, depending on the article about the Australian ballot for next year. The Australian ballot will allow for people to do a campaign. They'll have to sign a consent form in January saying that they're going to be running for that particular office. So I think that is a good time to formalize that bit of information that we need. So. And just looking down through the positions, Susie is up for election this year. I'll be up for election next year, and Jim is the following year. So under listers, I don't think we have any listers here. Listers are who help determine the value of all the properties in town. They have a thankless job that at this point has, well, all the towns, I can't remember the exact number, but towns in Vermont are so far behind as far as the values go that I don't know what legislature is going to do, but we will, I think you're going to be seeing something because every town is what they have. The CLA is so low. It's calling for reappraisal, but there's no reappraisal firms to do all of the work. So Jeremiah McCann is the head lister. Harry Miller and Tom Boyle are the other listers.
That's a paid position.
Yeah.
That.
You couldn't pay your amount.
So Bruce,
Yes,
in that process. We get to hear from people ahead of time, we get to put names forward. And, that's great. What about the CLA? Are we likely to look at penalties, or the state just gonna have to wait?
we don't know. The CLA that triggers a reappraisal is 85%, and this year we're at 70.
71.7,
Yeah.
77.7.
You don't know, see.
Common level of appraisal.
Yes. And so in the past, that triggers a reappraisal, but there are no reappraisal firms.
And it doesn't trigger any penalties.
It will trigger a penalty as far as our education tax. So everybody is paying more in education.
Yeah,
tax
so
because
we're all gonna pay a lot of penalties.
we're gonna pay a lot of penalties. It's not a perfect system.
But if you're up, you pay more taxes probably, so.
Right. Cheryl, do you want to give us a little synopsis of, I know there's so many,
Yeah, there is gonna be a decision also this in March for an audit, so. But mainly it's just going through the books of the town clerk and, approving or agreeing that what we're giving you for information is correct and accurate. That's our job. We do a little bit more than probably some auditors because we go through every single payable. And balance every month or every account that we have.
Cheryl, they can't hear you online, you have to come up here.
I know you're trying to avoid it. Yeah.
This here?
your ex.
Gotta look at it.
That seems odd. I'm talking to you guys. Okay, well, so the auditor is just someone that looks at accounts of the town clerk. And once they're posted and we go through and make sure that everything balances, everything's accurate, that what you're seeing is true.
And the auditors were extremely helpful this year in working with our delinquent tax base and getting everything straightened out. It was a significant job and they did a wonderful job of pulling it all together.
Thanks to Mike.
Yes,
And did everybody hear that we need an auditor this year?
I was gonna say, is that why we need an auditor?
Amanda Cookson's going off this year, but we're looking for, because she's a full-time, works at Copley Hospital. She doesn't have the time to come in and work as much here. It would be nice if we had somebody that was semi-retired or retired that had the time to put into it. And that's kind of what we'd like, but you gotta have some bookkeeping knowledge, at least. An accountant degree would be wonderful, but not necessary. At least somebody that understands bookkeeping, and how that all works.
Could you
is
go out and number
important.
roughly how many hours a month and at this time of year, how many hours there is involved,
Well,
roughly?
it's not really completely necessary probably to go to the lengths that I go to. But coming in at least every quarter after the quarterly stuff is done and doing a complete balance of everything to make sure everything is accurate. If there's anything that doesn't look right, then that's the time to correct it and not wait until January of the next year and you've got to go all the way back. We found that that's the most helpful way of going about it. And it doesn't take that long. You know, it's the end of the year. December, we start, the end of December, and January is our busiest months where we're spending the most time in here getting this book ready for,
Roughly how many hours a week, just so somebody have a rough
Not
idea.
even a week,
Not
it's
a
like
week.
1 or 2 a month.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
One or two part days a month or full days or
No, oh.
hours?
It's, yeah, 2 hours. I mean, you can get a lot done, and if all 3 people come in,
And this is a
It's-
paid position also.
this is a paid position.
And Cheryl has generously offered to help train somebody since your next year that you would,
I'll be going off the
Big
next
one.
year, yeah.
unless we get really lucky, we won't be able to retain her, so.
Well, Mike too has been a big help to me. He does have the knowledge behind him. But he, after was elected, did move to Plattsburgh. So now it's having to come back to Plattsburgh to help out, so. But he's a huge stack of knowledge.
Okay, cemetery commissioner. Each of the cemeteries in town have commissioners. And this would be a, in the book, there's, let's see, cemetery commissioners. We have, Bob Davis, who is, he would be, was elected last year, Jim Jones, myself, Mike Martin, and Tom Boyle represent the cemetery commissioners. I don't know, I think I've been to one meeting in the 15 years I've been on the board, so it's not a real time consuming position, but if there's a question or something happens at one of the cemeteries, then you would be, included in that discussion, so. The trustee of public funds. Do you want to explain? I've never been a part of that.
We both tried to figure out what that is.
Name, do you know?
I was on, but we never had a meeting, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'm on too, I have no idea what we do.
Okay,
There is an account.
there is an account,
We
there's some
have an
money. in
account
it.
that has some money in it. I'm assuming we oversee that. A couple $1,000s, I don't know how much is in it.
I guess we ought to do some research on that one.
We've talked about it over the years, Don, how did we get this fund up? Anyway, it's an exciting fund to be on.
Yeah. A real time consuming. And the World War II Memorial Fund is a fund that was established when Miss Jean Simpson built the gymnasium on the common. There was money put into the fund to maintain the gymnasium. A fair amount of the funds went into building the new gymnasium. But there is an account with, I think, roughly $22,000 in it that can be used towards maintenance and just, it's decided, would be decided by the people on the board, what we would donate to. The construction costs were, I think there was, I can't remember, 45,000, something like $45,000 was put into the, donated to building the gymnasium that's there today, so. But we're happy to talk to you about any of the positions, so. Back to the,
Oh, Carol.
Carol.
Not to be a pain, but
No,
Uh,
that's what this
For the
meeting's
freedom-
for.
for the Freedom and Unity Task Force, we've been trying to be, for the Freedom and Unity Task Force, we've been trying to be very upfront about all our meetings, what's going on relative to Front Porch Forum. And what you've said this morning is great, you know, describing all these positions and what somebody might do. So possibly between now and March, the select board could once a week put, are you thinking of being the World War II Memorial Fund trustee that's coming up? This is what it entails. Any more information required, get in touch with one of you guys, something like that, just to keep, because a lot of people aren't here and, you know, it's a lot of usual faces. So if we can put that out there, I think that'd be moving another step towards opening up information.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, the article I read about the town expenditures, is there any comment on that? Carol, I mean, no, sorry.
Yeah, just wondering, can you talk about how that compares to last year
Yeah.
or to this year?
That's,
Last year was the numbers were $978,750, of which $592,830 had to be raised in taxes. The difference this year, we have a $960,863 number, of which $648,292.17 should be raised by taxes. The difference is when the flood happened this year, we aren't sure whether it was the governor's office, the transportation agency, or who decided that towns should get we get 4 payments every year for state aid for our highways. And they decided to kick out two payments at once, so that we have about $86,000 that came in that has gone into last year and will not be in this year, so it just makes a difference. The difference is about the same, but it's just because of that payment. Yeah. So this year we will only get two state aid payments instead of 4, which equals roughly $86,000. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say too, that one of the things that's happening that might help with that is it looks possible that we will that the state will pay more of our flood relief share. So hopefully that will
Good. Yep.
do some of that.
So.
And
So
you can explain, it worked out well because we ran a couple $100,000 deficit, so that helped chip in, so we didn't have to borrow money. So it's gonna work out, and then we'll get FEMA money hopefully in 2024, so. It should work out well, it just makes it.
How much did all the flood work cost? I'm curious in terms of what the bills would be for all the incredible work that was done to repair the roads.
out of pocket, we were at $214,462.85. And that does not include the road crews time, and FEMA helps pay for the trucks, the grader, the loader, and all of those. Right now, the FEMA dollars are somewhere between $300,000 and $350,000 that we'll be working with, so. We're going step by step. Oh, and then we get the bridge. Then there is, also with FEMA, we will be doing 2 mitigation projects, which they're kind of step 2 in the FEMA process. We applied for road damage and everything there, but the long-term damage, like the Town Garage Bridge and up on Town Line Road, we had a major damage up there. And those will be mitigation projects that will come in. The bridge could run anywhere from $500,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. We're working on that one. That's probably three years out, somewhere in there. No,
I was just gonna say, it might help everybody to know, because you and I live and breathe this every day. That when he's talking about the costs and the FEMA projects, et cetera, FEMA pays 75%, and then the remaining 25% is split between the state and the town. And we're hoping that the July event, it looks like it may go up to 90% FEMA share. And then the state and the town would split, not necessarily evenly.
Right.
That remaining 10%, and that's what I was talking about when I said that the state is trying this year to take a lion's share of that remainder. So that our bill out of pocket will be less at the end. We're out the money up front, but at the end, that's what we hope will happen. Slightly different for the hazard mitigation.
Yeah.
On the bridge, but generally speaking, we're not paying all of that.
no.
And that's really.
Yes.
So I think maybe to further this question, so where the ditch stone expenditure, for example, the actual was 17,000. The proposed budget for 23 was 4. The proposed budget for 24 is 4. So is that part of what you're speaking about, the 17,000? And so if not, then should we consider, I'm sorry?
What page are you on?
I'm on page 15 under the road department expenses.
The ditch stone.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, is that part of what, is FEMA paying part of this? And if not, then should we consider more for 2024?
Being the, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. So, and I have a second question that's kind of related but unrelated. And then the salaries, I see are going up, which is fantastic, but I'm wondering, is that because the salaries are increasing or is there another position?
I'll take the ditch stone first. That one, we do a certain amount of work that it's just routine maintenance where we have to use ditch stone. We probably bought close to $100,000 worth of ditch stone this year with FEMA. And then we have, there's 2 grants that we get most every year. There's the grant, what they call a grant in aid, and there is a Better Roads grant. And those grants total probably $60,000, and a lot of those are for ditch, so that our accountant puts the ditch stone in those instead of in this category. So we do buy a lot of ditch stone.
One of them's for hydraulically connected
Yeah,
roads,
there's hydraulic.
which is slant, so you put your ditch stone in so it don't wash. But we have to count it, but it is paid for by grant, so that's why we feel
Okay.
safe at 4,000.
Thanks for the
And as far as the road condition, the road crew goes, the salaries are going up.
Great.
We are very, very fortunate. We have, our road foreman has been here 38 years. Don't know what Kent's total, he's worked his whole life in road work. And Steve is relatively new with maybe 5 years experience, but we've taken a real hard look at our compensation. COVID changed numbers tremendously. And to stay competitive, we've had to move our numbers up.
Yeah,
Our benefit program is one of the best, it's a high-end benefit program. But our numbers are going up just because we have to pay fairly to get people to.
no, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
And we will be needing an employee because Kent will be retired this year, so. It's not a fun job when you're getting up at 1 o'clock every morning to go out and check the roads or go out. This year we've had some truck troubles, so a lot of time we've had 2 trucks on the road instead of 3 trucks. So they have to get up a little earlier to make sure that all the roads are done before the school buses run and stuff. We're just very, very fortunate that we have the crew that we do. We've been blessed with who we have, and it's
Absolutely.
kind of scary to think who we're not gonna have in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Anybody online want to do the question?
Don't see anything. The next one, Article 5, shall the town appropriate $65,000 to the Craftsbury Fire Department for payment of necessary expenses from January 1st to December 31st, 2024. This is a level funded budget from last year. Any questions on that one? Okay, Article 6, shall the town appropriate $10,000 to the Craftsbury Fire Department for paying stipends to its volunteers? This was a new appropriation last year. It hasn't yet been dispersed, but will be the first meeting in February now that the complete year is through. It's an effort to try to keep volunteers. Our numbers have dwindled tremendously over the last few years. We struggle with, an average meeting is probably seven or 8 people, whereas we used to get 15 to 20 people coming to meetings. It's just, people don't have time. There's other reasons, but it's really, really hard. We try to find volunteers and we just can't. So this is a small stipend, especially a lot of it will go to first responders. They probably average 4 or 5 calls a week where they go out to the care center, they go to the outdoor center, Sterling College, school. Those are 4 big ones that they respond to. Chris?
I think I mentioned this or asked this question at the town meeting last year, and to whether that's enough.
Can you speak up here?
Yeah. So I asked this at the town meeting last year, it's just whether that's enough, whether we need to grow that to get more volunteers, or whether we need to consider paid positions to keep enough workforce there.
I think we'll know more after the first meeting in February, after we get everything distributed the first year, so. We'll find out. I don't think it's the money that's gonna keep people there. It's the time commitment. You know, crawling out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning when somebody says it's chimney fire or something like that. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Article 7, what we've done this year, we've tried, since we made the rule that we vote by voice on anything under $15,000, we've tried to group our appropriations so that we keep that number under $15,000, which keeps the meeting moving a little quicker. So Article 7 is the Craftsbury block. That would be $1,500 for the Craftsbury Block Party. $6,400 split for the Craftsbury Cemeteries for the mowing costs. $2,500 for the Recreation Committee. And this has a $1,500 allocation for working with Greensboro and Hardwick to provide swimming lessons. $500 for the Historical Society. And $1,500 to Craftsbury Village Improvement Society for maintenance on the common, for a total of $12,400. Any questions, comments?
Bruce, I'd like to point out that any of these articles can be amended during town meeting. So even though we have grouped articles together, if you want to amend one of them, you can make a motion to amend the dollar amount. There are limits, you can't go too far up or down, but you can make changes. If you make a motion and the motion carries, then you change the number on the article.
Okay, no comments. Article 8, shall the town vote the sum of $7,000 for the Craftsbury Conservation Fund, money set aside for future conservation projects? And Susie, did you want to elaborate on that?
Only if there are questions. This was set up a number of years ago after about a year or two of research about how to establish a conservation fund for our town. And they have quite an elaborate list of activities which could fall under this fund. And then an application form. And all that is online, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And I believe that's the same amount in the town report from last year.
Yeah,
So
it is.
Right along. for a
It's
few
been the
years now.
same all the way, you're like maybe 3 or 4 years, something like that.
Okay, Article 9, shall the town vote the sum of $6,000 for Craftsbury Saplings, the Community Children's Center? Questions?
I can
comments?
answer any questions about something that on that board.
I believe that's also level funded from last year as well.
Is that enough, the 6,000? You know, what's it based
That's
upon?
what they asked for.
That's what they asked
That's
for.
what they asked.
Yeah.
That was their request. All of these, so that group or organization or whatever sends a request. We don't make
Yeah,
the
yeah,
decision.
I just
of the
wondered, it
request.
seems to me like they're sort of stretched thin, but I guess that's the nature. of
This
the-
is more for scholarships for local people. They use this to match, to help make it affordable for some local people. See. Article 10, shall the town vote the sum of $12,000 for the Craftsbury Community Care Center, residential care home providing support for elders? That's level funded as well from last year. Questions, comments? Okay, Article 11, shall the town vote the sum of $13,700 for the following appropriations? $4,500 for the Greensboro Nursing Home, $4,200 for the Orleans Essex VNA and Hospice for providing services to the elderly, homebound and chronically ill, $5,000 to the Hardwick Area Food Pantry and the expanded Craftsbury Food Share, a total of $13,700.
I did want to comment, I think 2 of them have gone up this year. Off the top of my head, I think Queens for our nursing home had asked for 2,500 last year. And it's 4,500 this year, and I think the Hardwick area food pantry, I think that was 2,500 last year, and I think it's 5,000 off the top of my head.
Article 12, shall the town vote the sum of $14,098 for the following appropriations? $1,000 to Aware for preventing and healing the trauma of domestic and sexual violence. $1,200 to Green Mountain Farm School for providing fresh local food and nutrition education for students in northern Vermont. $1,500 to Lamoille County Mental Health Services. $1,000 to Lamoille Family Center for parent and child programming services designed to promote health, safe and resilient families. $500 North Country Animal League. $650 to Northeast Kingdom Council on Aging. $1,266 to Northeast Kingdom Human Services for supporting community members with mental health addiction. That should be it. And developmental disabilities. $300 to Northeast Kingdom Learning Services. $1,142 to Northeast Vermont Development Association for planning, developing, promoting and publicizing resources. $500 to Northwood Stewardship Center for widespread conservation and educational services. $700 to Old Stone House Museum for maintaining the Old Stone House Museum and its programs. $500 to Orleans County Fair. $500 to Polk Memorial Frontier Animal Hospital, Animal Shelter. $1,500 to Rural Arts for supporting programs, activities, and projects for Craftsbury families. $600 to Rural Community Transportation for providing public transportation services in northern Vermont. $500 for Salvation Farms for distributing food, produce from local farms to regions residents. $140 Vermont Center for Independent Living. $500 Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And $100 for Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force. Total of $14,098. Questions, comments?
I believe those were, I could be wrong, but I believe those were level funded ones. I could be wrong, but I don't think there was an increase on them.
Okay, no questions. Article 13, shall the town appropriate the sum of $25,880 to the Hardwick Rescue Squad Incorporated? This one is up from roughly 19,000 last year. And that is based on number of calls, percentage of service. They take their whole service area and they divide it into percent. And our calls, Hardwick Rescue has been in town a lot this year. Yeah, last year, where was it?
With 19,905.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was 19 something last year, so it is up. But for a volunteer service organization, they do a wonderful job of showing up anytime that they're needed. Shall the town appropriate sum of $47,700 for the operation of the Craftsbury Public Library for the ensuing year? That is up just those from 46,700 last year, so that's up just a bit. Shall the town appropriate sum of $800, the Orleans County Citizens Advocacy connectabilities for creating and supporting relationships between community volunteers and individuals with developmental disabilities?
And that's a new article.
That is a new article this year.
I believe they've been on it in past years. I think just last year they had forgotten to put it in. It's something that we have voted for in the past. I think their name is slightly different. They're going through a name change. I do in the back over here, all of the appropriation requests, there's a notebook back there, and if they gave us a report about their organization, that type of thing, we've kept it in there, and people can look at any time. So if it's really busy today, you're welcome to come back any other time, and we just keep it on that desk. So you're welcome to always come by and take a look to see a little bit about these companies. I might try to scan it in, I don't know, might be more work than I think, so, but it is always here to look at.
And we will have that notebook at town meeting if anybody wants to come and take a look before we vote, so. Article 16, shall the town elect its town officers by Australian ballot pursuant to 17 VSA 2680B. This is a new one this year. Well, and we did have that article last year, but this is a direct outcome of the Freedom and Unities meetings that we held. It's what we consider, I guess we consider a hybrid, where we have some of the elections done, the officer election would be done by Australian ballot, but the rest of the town meeting would be held the same as we hold it presently, so. This is hoping that people feel that they have a voice in who's elected to each office, so.
How will the writing work with this?
Hi, can you hear me? Oop.
They can hear.
And I do suggest if we can just say our names, because I don't think everybody can tell who people are.
I'm Carol. How does the electing somebody from the floor work in the Australian ballot method? I should know this.
There'd be no election from the floor. Somebody, if they wanted to run for one of the town offices, would have to come in and sign a consent form prior to, I think it's like the 10th of January. They come in here, sign their form saying that they're running, and then they are put on the ballot and they're free to, you can campaign from then until the person
Okay,
runs.
so then if you're doing what we talked about before about putting announcements of the different positions, you'll say, don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to be done prior to the consent form having to be signed.
Could I ask something more on that? I'm just fuzzing on jury Rowley. So if people were to say, yes, so we want Australian ballots this year,
Would you speak up? I'm sorry.
if people were to say yes to Article 16, that we want Australian ballot this year, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sit on this side.
You can't be both places.
I'll try it.
Why don't you stand on this side, facing the people and talking to them?
Go over this
Yeah.
side? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all right. That's all right. I really need a microphone, so maybe this will double. I forgot what I was going to ask. I'm confused about the timing. We're not doing it by Australian ballot this year.
No,
Right, right.
So if people wanted to, if they voted this year to do it, then next year is when it would be. Okay. And still fuzzy to me. Okay, thank you.
I think Wendy wants somebody.
Yeah.
Brian? You still have your question?
Yeah, I guess I was wanting to follow up on something John said earlier about people submitting a written statement. I understand about the matter of having the consent form. And I understand the discussion about campaigning, but I think it would be helpful, and I don't know if this is the right place to include it, if there was a requirement essentially that people add a statement about why they're running, what they hope to accomplish, biographical information, et cetera, so that it can all be included in one place in the process of the voting.
We'll certainly try to figure that out. I'm not sure if we can put it in our town report or how we can do it, but we can certainly work on that.
We can circulate it with
Yeah.
us probably.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of neutrality, so I'm not sure if it can be in the town report. Definitely can't be on the ballot. But on the question of campaigning or write-ins, even if it's Australian ballot, people can wage a write-in campaign if they haven't filled out the paperwork in time. You can still wage a write-in campaign and have your name written in on the Australian ballot. You have that option no matter what office it is, state, federal, local. You have that option to write in somebody's name and somebody can just campaign for a write-in.
I don't think, Brian, legally that we can we can't make people do it. I mean, I certainly could ask people to have something that I could share on the website maybe. share on, share in places. But I don't think I can legally, require people to have to write something.
Thank you, Cheryl. That answers my question directly.
Yes.
And there's a question from Judy. Has there been a decision not to use a hybrid or Australian ballot?
No.
We'll be voting on whether or not to do officers by Australian ballot at this year's town meeting. But there is no vote on having no in-person regular town meeting, it's budget item.
No.
I was just gonna follow up to what Michelle had said and Brian had asked. That you can give the option for people to make a statement, et cetera. And then I guess if they don't make a statement, that's kind of a commentary, isn't it? So.
And that's a statement all in itself.
There you go.
People can use social media, they can use Front Porch Forum if they want to advertise what they're running for or what they stand for, so. Other questions, comments on this? And then we get into the usual, it's been there for 100 years, shall the town vote the taxes be payable in installments with due dates being July 15th, September 15th, and November 15th. 32 VSA 4871. So will bear interest at the rate of 1% per month or a fraction thereof for the first 3 months, and thereafter 1.5% per month for a fraction thereof from November 15th. This has been on here. We don't charge any interest, and the installments do not charge. There's no interest charged if you don't make your payments on the July or the September. But after November 15th, there is a payment, interest charge, so.
And there's a penalty.
And
I'll let you know.
Yes.
It's a lot more than the interest in the
Yes,
beginning.
it's-
I did want to mention that, legally, we don't, unless we have a change on that, we don't have to have that on our warning. We decided to keep it on just to remind people that taxes are due. November 15th is the last day of it. And as of November 16th, penalty of 8% is automatically added, no question. You can make payments, you can make $100 a month if you wanted. But it's just that your total payment has to be paid, and how you want to do that is your own business, but your total payment has to be in November 15th or earlier. We do have online payments options for both regular taxes and delinquent taxes, so I had over $30,000 come in November 15th. Online, that was just online payment. That people forgot.
And Michelle reminded them this.
I'm Don Houghton, and I just wanted to know why there are two tax collectors now. Is that just temporary for this year, or is that ongoing?
We have a delinquent tax collector who deals with delinquencies, and we have our regular tax collector.
Well,
But last year,
I mean,
Effie was the elected officer until March, and then after that, basically Allison took, after, it was a little bit of an interim period of a month or two, but then Allison took over as the appointed position, is what we voted last.
so that's just a one-time
No, she.
thing. The both of them are delinquent tax collectors.
We switched from being an elected to an appointed position, and so we appointed Allison. Effie was elected up until last year.
But if the position ever changes hand, you're gonna have two people on it again, luckily Allison wants to do the position, is doing a great job. But she could change her mind and would have to have two people on again.
But Effie will continue or not?
No,
No,
Effie
Effie, her term ended in that town meeting last year, so.
Yeah.
it's always been two positions, it's just usually been the same person,
There you
so there's
go.
always been two
Good
positions.
job.
They, just the same person had been doing both jobs.
Yeah.
So there's always two people, it's just the same person.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess that concludes the articles.
And I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So at town meeting, I don't know when it was, but we voted to not list delinquent taxpayers in the town report. But there was a Facebook post, saying who owed taxes fairly when taxes were due, and I just wonder if there's a change in policy or is it?
That was, I believe that was not
That
a
was a
delinquent
name.
tax.
No, that was not delinquent. It was just letting people know that there was still money due. It wasn't to do with delinquent taxes. People were not delinquent yet. It was one of those things I was trying to let people know if they were thinking they paid it already and they hadn't, just to let them know, because there's a lot of people that just forgot. And it was a
Okay,
way
thank
to
you.
try to get the word out that money is still, you still have time, but just to let you know that you still owe money for this year.
She was trying to save them the 8% penalty.
Yeah, no,
Biggest
that's fine. I
difference
just
this
was
year-
curious.
Yeah, it's not really posting people delinquent, because they were not delinquent by any means. I was just trying to get the word out to let people know, because the number of people that were delinquent this year was definitely a huge difference from just a couple years ago. Like 1 year was like $110,000, and we're down to like $57,000. It makes a big difference, and it's saving people money. I mean, that to me, I'm not trying to charge them the 8%. We don't want to charge people the 8%. We need, we're trying to help people. And by getting the word out. So, yeah, no one was delinquent when I sent that out.
Thanks for clarifying. Thank you very much.
Yep, Brian?
Yeah, thanks. I put a question in the chat and I saw an answer, but I wasn't sure it was the answer to my question. NEK Broadband wants to use some of the land on which the elementary school sits to locate their OLT, essentially what's up in the balcony for Kingdom Fiber right now. That situation for NEK Broadband will need to be on a small concrete pad, and they have identified and had some agreement from the school board to use some of the elementary school land to do that. Has the right access. It's it's in the right place. Blah blah blah. So the school board has suggested that this may need to be voted on during the school portion of town meeting, and I'm wondering how we go about getting that item onto the school board part of the agenda for town meeting. Who do I talk to about that?
I'm guessing it's too late for this year. All the warnings for the town had to be in Thursday. You would have had to contact probably the school board to do that, or OSSU maybe.
They want us to put it on.
Oh, okay.
If it's the school land, it has to go on the school one. And depending on when they sign the warning. If it's already
Okay,
signed,
so
it would have to be a special meeting.
okay, so we missed the window.
I don't know if it's on it.
You have to check.
Yeah, I know it's not on it now.
I signed, sorry. They just told me.
Okay,
to sign.
thank you.
So that concludes what articles will be voted on in March. I would encourage people to seek out at least one friend to say, please come to town meeting. We would love to see. One of the questions that we've dealt with Freedom and Unity is the fact that when we had our Australian ballot in town, we had 400+ people vote for town meeting articles. And a really big contentious town meeting in person is roughly 200 people. So we would love to see 300 people show up at the Common on March 5th. So we would encourage you to go out, bring a friend, encourage people to come out and join us. Because it's, 900 residents in town. It's too bad that people have to make the decisions. So I'd like to see 33% show up or more.
And people who are under 50 maybe, as we look around, we're a certain demographic, and it'd be nice to have some other demographics. So just, yeah, grab your neighbors and your friends and say, just show up, it would be great. And, we have such a vibrant community, we want to maintain that vibrancy, but we need a lot of participation to continue to be who we are, who we want to be.
Could I, add something which is unrelated to money? Don't think it costs a penny. Is it possible to put, we have a wonderful town statement, which I think is on the wall of the office. We have a wonderful town statement, but everybody created their statements about 5 or 6 years ago, all organizations, we believe in this. We believe in tolerance and everybody, and they sound very good. We have it on the website. I can't find it on the website. We have it on the wall, but nowhere else. Why not put it along with the pretty pictures at the beginning of the, what this fits into? Just print about 6 or 8 lines before the people, then we know where it was. So yeah, Susie has a copy, I know, but I don't.
Yeah, well, I would, yes, because I help orchestrate
Big
that.
thing is if we got room.
Yeah.
We may have room, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Jerry, because that's been on my mind, but my mind, gone. I would love to include that, and what, Michelle, didn't we include that 1 year? Because I think we had that conversation. I don't know, anyway, it's a
It was
great
a lot of
idea.
work to put the town support
Right,
project together.
If we don't get it in this year, we can, put that on in our heads to try to do it next year. You can remind us. Yeah,
Next year's.
because we did vote on that statement, and that was kind of a lengthy meeting to come to the language on that statement. It's on the outside bulletin board, and it's a little dusty and crusty right now, so I need to refresh it a little bit. And you're right, publicize it a little bit
Or
more.
have it on
Thank
the
you.
website too. If it is.
It's on the select board page. I believe it's the draft that we have, is on page 6, it will be on the town report, yeah, that's it right there.
Oh.
The Freedom and Unity Committee is working on seeing if we can get childcare for
There you go.
town
Thank you,
meeting.
Cheryl.
We've also discussed maybe seeing if we could work on, if somebody can't get to town meeting, trying to work on whether or not we can arrange some kind of transportation. We are working on trying to get more people to town meeting and trying to work on things. We've offered town meeting, we've offered childcare for all the meetings that we've been, meetings in October, and November, and we didn't have any papers. We offered childcare for today for, people to sign up, so we know whether or not to pay someone, and we didn't, but Molly brought her kids, and look how well they've been doing. We can have. The other thing, if you were at those meetings in October and November, Susan Clark, the person who was kind of coordinating those meetings, made a statement that when you have Australian ballot, you're a voter. When you have open town meeting, you are a legislator, which is a different perspective. So do you want to be just a voter? Do you want to actually be a legislator and then vote? It's,
Or do you want to do something in between?
Right.
To take advantage of both,
right, you can.
Yeah.
Um,
just to be fully neutral.
right, you can be, you get the hybrid, like if we vote on Australian ballot for officers and have an open town meeting, that's called a hybrid. Personally, I came up with an idea, I don't know if it's legal, that we'll have to find out. But what if we voted that on the even years where Michelle has to have Australian ballot anyway, we vote Australian ballot. On the odd years, why don't we have open town meeting? I don't know if we can vote that or not, but I thought that would benefit everybody. One year.
Thinking.
I mean, you know, an even year where you're gonna have Australian ballot, you know you're gonna vote on a president or a governor or something. That's automatically Australian ballot. And the year you don't have it, you have open town meeting. I don't know if you can do that, but you have to have one or the other. I don't know why that would solve the problem.
It's
I have an idea.
Good idea, we'll
Makes people think.
investigate.
That's what those meetings were for. Come up with ideas.
Keep thinking.
I don't,
How to best serve our town.
Yeah, thanks so much for just describing what the select board does and the other officers. And I was wondering if, Front Porch Forum, town website, there could be a little bit more of the details of what the select board does, because roads so critical and, flood and so forth. And then also, it's been so helpful in all the different committees is to have a representative from the select board. And so, yeah, if we can continue to have that,
thank you, Susie, for all that you do, and because it's really critical for the volunteers on the boards or the appointers, those who are appointed, to know what's happening. So just to keep that on the list of things that the select board does.
One thing that the select board is looking into, I don't know how many people happened to read the article about the town of Norwich that ended up with $100,000 fine, or not a fine, but $100,000 invested in legal services to work because the retired attorney in town felt that the town was not following all of the open meeting laws. And so we're hoping we can change where we have more committee participation in the town select board meetings to get more information out to the public so that people are aware. Committees have been pretty good about getting their minutes to us. Michelle has, if you look on the government page of the town website, we have a really good batch of reports from all the committees are working on, but we're still slipping in a few places, so we're trying to tighten that up this year so that we don't end up being like Norwich and being out a lot of money for that kind of thing, so.
And one thing that Amelia helped years ago is she suggested that all the chairs come to a select board meeting so that there's many town committees, commissions, so they could all share information, which was so beneficial to everybody. And we talked about doing that again, which, we haven't quite organized yet. But this idea of having not just a liaison lead going to all these meetings and bringing back my information, of having the chairs or a member come to select board every few months and just personally inform us what's going on, and then we can share information. So it's sort of be a hybrid of what Amelia encouraged us to do, years ago. And so this town, there's so much going on in this town, and most people don't realize all the undercurrent that keeps things buzzing and going. And so we're really working hard on being more participatory and more transparent. So people really feel invested in this community. That's my whole thing. We want people to step up and feel like this is their community. So invest your time and energy as you can. So that Norwich case really made me very anxious. So we are going to try to really just button up some of our goals that we may have. I mean, we've really worked hard to understand open meeting laws. We've been to a lot of webinars and a lot of information, but that Norwich case really, it made me very anxious, so.
We do meet first, right now we've set it up, so we meet the first and the third Tuesdays of every month. Open meeting to anybody that wants to come and sit in. We may bore you to death, or we might have something that was really interesting to be a participant in, so that'll be.
Everything is really exciting, you gotta come.
Doherty, and I was just gonna say, several years ago when I helped with the open meetings,
Yeah.
trying to get it a little bit more transparent and more structure, I think is a better way behind that. We talked about trying to have committee chairs or members when they've been doing some, come and talk, and that there's a spot on the agenda for that. So, making sure that they know that they don't have to just let Susie bring it, for instance, that Chris or I could come for neighbor to neighbor and let you know what's going on, or what we need, or whatever, hazard mitigation, or whatever we're doing. So I think it's just important. I don't think the chairs realized that that's welcome and already set up as a way to do it.
And what I really like about doing that, it's that ability to have a conversation back and forth. It's not just hearing the news, it's actually, and not just reading the notes, but to have that conversation back and forth, I think is really crucial.
Yeah.
And
So-
I think we should work on it this year.
So committee chairs or committee members definitely will be hearing from us.
I think one thing that's gonna keep town meetings from getting too big is still the COVID aspect of it, the stigma of if you're sick or have been sick, people looking at you. There's still a lot of sickness. A lot of people won't show up because they're afraid of getting sick. Others won't come because they had just got over it and don't feel they should be there. You're running an uphill battle with that. That's gonna keep numbers down.
And now we have our RSVs.
And that's just it. There's just a lot of everything going around.
Yeah.
And, you're looked at, if somebody's had COVID and they show up, oh, I thought you had COVID.
Everybody kind of moves.
Everybody, right.
Young people like you, Tony, don't worry about that. Old people like us too.
And if there are Australian ballot, I'd say we went with a strictly Australian ballot, the select board would be required to have a meeting like this before town meeting. But you couldn't change it.
Marcy, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say, I know a lot of towns have gone to Australian ballot. And I have not been able to go to town meeting for a number of years for one reason or another. But I think it is so important and gives us a sense of community when we have town meeting. And masks are always available. People are wearing masks now. I wear a mask when I'm in the supermarket, should have mine on now. But I hate to see town meetings go by the boards.
I just wish the town meeting could have double the number of people that would come out. That's been my wish for years, so.
Jim, the question you had asked, mentioned at one of our earlier committee meetings that it would be nice to, if everybody just visited 5 neighbors who don't vote and ask them to say why not say why not, but put it in a sealed box, let's say. Every person asked 5. I could come up with 5 fairly quickly, I think. Just give their honest reason, and then that would be, yeah, it would be a sample. It wouldn't be everybody in town, but it might be interesting.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Thank you.
The Freedom and Unity Committee is making phone calls to people who have not been showing up to town meeting. We haven't been real successful because we've left messages or, and a lot of numbers aren't in the phone book, but we are trying to reach out to people who have not been coming to town meeting.
We're also looking into transportation, right, for people that say the reason why they can't come is because their car, somebody else is using their car, whatever. But there are a lot of issues around that, but we're beginning to talk about. So,
Comments, questions,
There's food, there's coffee.
food left over?
Very good food.
We appreciate everybody coming out on a cold morning, and we look forward to seeing you in March.
Thank you.
They don't, we need. Well, but they do it that way. We want to,